Much. Good afternoon, everybody. Well, for me, it's good morning. That's why I wasn't here. I arrived at 5 in the morning. I'm sorry I wasn't here in the morning session. I particularly looked forward to the presentations, but unfortunately, the plan didn't go according to plan. Thank you very much for Bologna Training Center for inviting me. It's really kind of you to give me this opportunity to come here and stay in such a luxurious place in the beautiful city of Jerusalem. It's really beautiful. I'm particularly glad to be here today and see faces of my friends between the audience, and I hope that I will get to know you all. If not today, then in the near future, because you will see a lot of me in the coming few years. Perhaps I should tell you a little bit about myself. I know that Moshe told you, but I've been working at Masaryk University since 2005. I started actually as a student assistant while doing my master's at Ben-Gurion University of Technology. So I didn't even study at Masaryk University. So it was a coincidence that I applied for the job, and I wanted to finish and become a very rich engineer after I graduate. Again, plan did not go according to plan. But then I have a theory that once you get connected to international relations, there's no way out. So if you are not related to international relations yet, be careful, because once you are there, there's no way out for you. Well, the reason why I'm here is because in 2009 we started a campus cooperation with a couple of Israeli institutions within a Corinthian project, and that's how we got to know our partners. And they offered us actually to coordinate the Erasmus Mundus project. That's why Masaryk University is involved in this, and it's really a great pleasure. Making an international project work, I was hoping actually to be given the presentation that Eric did in the morning, but well, he's not here, so I can tell you that. But of course, this topic is also nice, and I hope that I will not be repeating some of the things that Eric already mentioned in the morning. So, let's see. Of course, all of you know what a project is, so bear with me. The reason why I put this slide will be explained a little bit later on. So a project, as all of you know, it's a set of activities designed and implemented to achieve a certain goal. We all have to know that a project is temporary because it has a project time beginning and end, and there's a time for implementation. So the project cannot go on forever. And then, of course, the project should be unique because it breaks down the tasks or the routines that we do in our daily life, but it is associated to change. We are trying to change things to improve on them. That's what a project is. Now, the reason why I mentioned that is because sometimes project managers, unfortunately, get a little bit confused with the term. And when they have a large project with large budget, they tend to do whatever they do in their daily life, and they don't try to change anything. So this is actually a routine. This is not a project. So we all work in international relations. We all have bilateral agreements. We all exchange students, professors, and researchers for many years now. But if you have a project, you need to do something different. You need to do something that will cause a change, and then this change or the results of the project will become the routine, and they will be an ongoing activity. So it is really quite a common mistake for managers to manage their projects in a way that they do not try to make any change. They just take the budget, they implement it, and that's it. And there's nothing new or added value to what they've done. And this cannot be really considered a project. I once read this. I don't know if it will mean anything for you, but to make it closer for you, someone wrote, "A wedding is a project, but a marriage isn't." Well, I don't know about that. Maybe it is. But to make it simpler for you, I think that by implementing your project, you would like to, once the project has ended, you would like to benefit from the results of those projects. So that's I guess, what the person meant when they mentioned this. So how to make it work? There is actually no secret. You just need to try to implement it in a way that will make sure that your project and the name of your project will stay for years to come. You need to make a difference. It's not just something that you are implementing for a few months or years and then it ends. I decided to put those points, even though I think that in the morning session by Eric, I'm sure he mentioned the way how to start your project from beginning until end, but I thought that I should also mention those points. So the first 3 points actually are prior to starting your project. And then it will be the topic of my presentation, how to prepare yourself, implement and sustain your project. But because of course it is very important for a successful project, you need to start from zero, you need to start from scratch, and your beginning is very crucial for the project. That's why I decided to also mention the first 3 points, which is defining your purpose and motives, making a decision, and finding your way around. I will come into details to those points, and through my slides, I will be giving you not only the theory, but I also will give you practical examples of what we've been implementing in our project Erasmus Mundus that we've been implementing since 2010, the project Email. So I will go more deep into details to practical part of running a project. So defining your motives, it's actually, you need to know that it's not enough to have a purpose, but you need to believe in it. Because sometimes someone gives you the task, you know what, there is a new project, there is money involved in it, so just do it. And it can work for some institutions like that, but you really need to believe in what you are doing. Otherwise, there will be no continuation of what you are doing. And my advice would be change your default attitude to cooperate and learn from others. Of course, we know that many projects are out there and people have been running projects for years, and especially in European funded projects, Tempus and Erasmus Mundus, there are many projects out there. And you need to know that when you start from scratch, you need to have the attitude of wanting to cooperate and learn from others. Of course, it's very healthy to compete. It's not I'm not saying do not try to compete with others, but do not let competition be your only purpose. Perhaps you are saying this institution is in the same region, or maybe they have less students than I am, why are they involved and I'm not? Well, it's not about that. It's not about you wanting to becoming them. It's about you wanting to learn and reach this stage of becoming also successful in the projects you run and in everything, if we are talking about international relations. And once you learn and you have your own achievements, you become a competition without even realizing that. So from the beginning, you didn't want to start having projects. You don't want to be internationalized or involved in projects that just to be high in the ranking, Shanghai ranking, let's say. Of course, everybody wants that, but in the long run, your purpose should not be that. You will become a competition by proving that you are a competition, by having a project result of high quality, not by actually wanting them so badly. Making the decision, well, I think that during while I explain to you this point, I will be telling you a little bit of stories from what we've been through since 2007, since the beginning of the Erasmus Mundus external cooperation window, as it was told, it was named before, which is the Erasmus Mundus Action 2 today. So you need to begin with deciding on the priorities of your institution for international relations. Sometimes you are working in an international office or in a research office, or you are an academic involved in the faculty and also involved somehow in the administrative procedure of your university. So perhaps you have a vision of your own, but your faculties have a completely different vision, or maybe your rector has different vision, your president had different vision. And you need to know that once you start with international cooperation, it's not you as an individual who's involved in those projects or in those activities, it's your institution. So it's not up to you to decide. There has to be some kind of a bigger concept of that. So you need to decide on the priority. What kind of project is important for you? Is it Tempus? Is it Erasmus Mundus? Is it both? Is it international project of any kind? you need to start with the policy for internationalization. I think that many institutions already have their own strategy for internationalization or policy for internationalization, but not all of them, not necessarily. And I think that it's really important to have one. So if you don't have policy for internationalization for your institution, perhaps you should start by having one. You should discuss it in the beginning. You should start, because if you are now involved somehow internationally, you have a couple of bilateral agreements, and then you don't know what to do next, how to do it. So maybe you should decide as a whole, as an institution as a whole, to put it one point after the other and decide. Sometimes the ideas are in our heads, but you need to put them in paper, because the person who has the brilliant idea could leave the university one day, and what to do with that idea. So just start by establishing a strategy for internationalization. And I must tell you that at Masaryk University, the first strategy for internationalization was written in the year 2000, and it came with the establishing of our office. But this year we are, with all the changes happening and the Erasmus Plus and the expansion of our office, we are now establishing a new strategy for internationalization. So even if you have one, you have to keep updating it. It's not enough to have it. Maybe 5 years from now, maybe 10 years from now, you will have a different vision, because you expect, by being more internationally involved, to be moving on and having further activities. So you have to adapt to those changes all the time. So if you don't have policy for internationalization, have one. If you have one, make sure that it's updated, make sure that it makes sense for you. Maybe 5 years from back then it was okay, but now it's not working for me anymore. I have to work on making it up to date. The third point is very important: involve faculties and university units. Me, personally, I don't work at the faculty level. I work at the university level for centralized international office. However, I have an idea of what's going on at the faculty level. And if I'm involved in Erasmus Mundus, I can't promise something without discussing it with the faculty. It's not my office who's receiving students from Israel. It's not my office who's receiving researchers or academics. It's the faculty. So you need to involve them in advance. Do not go into project and promising things and telling your partners or the coordinator, I have the capacity to receive 50 students from the Czech Republic. Do you really have the capacity? Is your faculty interested in that? Do they have anything to offer for international students? So don't make the mistakes by promising something without discussing it with the faculty and academics in advance. Get the full support of the university board. They are the decision makers in advance. By the university board, I mean the rector and the president, whoever is responsible for that. The reason for that is basically it will make your life much easier. If you have the support of your rector and your president, everything miraculously goes much faster than it will without their support. So really start by involving them. I tell you, our rector will never open the European Commission pages and look what are the calls for proposals. It's not his job to do, it's our job. But once I see something really interesting that I would like to get Masaryk University involved in, I have to let him know in advance, because once I get his support, everything goes much smoother and the faculties will cooperate much easier. Get the full support of the people responsible for finances. I have to tell you a story here, because in 2007, when the project Erasmus Mundus External Cooperation Window was created, we were involved in the university network called the Utrecht Network. And back then, we were really naive. We had no idea what the program was about. And my former director, Don Sparling, many of you already know him, he was very ambitious and he wanted to join all projects and be very internationalized. So he told me, you know what, just go to Antwerp, there will be a meeting and there will be colleagues discussing who will coordinating which region. So I went there, and there were some colleagues from other European universities, and they decided, okay, this is an interesting project, there is money involved, a lot of it. So let's all of us split the projects between each other. And I received the task of coordinating a project with Russia, because of course Russia was back then our priority region for Masaryk University. So I thought, yeah, why not? I went back to the office and I told Don, my director, I told him it's 5 million euros. And he said, wow, 5 million euros, that's wonderful. let's go for it. So I started communicating with the partners and collecting the documents, and they sent me their approval, etc. And then my colleague, who's the head of finances, she heard about it by coincidence. She just, heard that there will be a new project, 5 million euros. And she came to us and she said, we don't have euro in the Czech Republic. What are you doing? If we have 5 million euros with currency exchange, we could go bankrupt, the whole university. So the reason why I'm telling you this story is that sometimes we are really naive. We miss on the details of things, and finances is a very important part of the project. So please make sure before you go into any project that your people who are responsible for finances, whoever that is, that they are fully aware of what you are doing and what the risk will be. Which brings me to the next point. You need to study the risk possibilities. You need to know what will happen in the worst case scenarios. You have to be prepared. And I remember that when we finally became prepared to coordinate a project, that was in 2010, because Erasmus Mundus started in 2007 and we were only partners. In 2010, we studied the risks, and we decided we are prepared to do it. Even though we don't have euro in the Czech Republic, we don't use this currency, it is still possible to do it, because our management, the university board decided we will do it, the finances decided to find compromises and find solutions how to manage it, and we did. So, but we still had some risk. We knew that there will be, for example, currency, because of currency exchange, there will be loss in money, but also there might be a benefit, so you just need to be prepared for the worst case scenarios in case something happens, that you have the support from people who will get you out of this problem. Part of taking the decision is also thinking realistically. I think that it's good to be ambitious, it's really nice, but you also need to know that when you join the project, when you promise something to a consortium, to partners, you need to know that you are ready to do it. You have to ask yourself some questions. Do I have enough staff to manage this project? Do I have enough expertise to manage such projects? Do my faculties have enough capacity to accept this number of students? Do we have enough courses in English or in other language that would? So you need to be prepared for that. You need to ask yourself those questions before going into projects. Also, you need to decide on the role you would like to take. You are either a coordinator or a partner. Some projects they expect you to be co-financier, so you need to know that university will be able to finance part of the project budget, etc. So this is also very important for you to know. If you are not very sure, you don't have to start with coordinating. You can start as a partner, learn on the way, and then become a coordinator. And of course, last but not least, never make promises that you can't keep. I must say that this is very normal. This happens, and when you are very enthusiastic and you love what you do, you like to make promises. And so, but I tell my partners I still have time until 2017. So if I made a promise that is not fulfilled yet, please give me some time. I will make sure I will fulfill it. In terms of getting yourself informed, I think that it's really wise to admit that you are not aware of everything. You don't know everything. It's only normal that you don't know all the details. And I think that it is very, very important to first realize that and admit it, and then try to get help, to get yourself informed, to get yourself prepared. You can always refer to your partners and networks that your university is involved in. So, for example, Masaryk University in 2007 was not involved in anything in Erasmus Mundus, but then we heard about it through the university network that we were partners in, and then we became the most active member in those projects. But first, we got to know this information. So it's nothing to be ashamed of that you don't know and that you would like to know. Try to benefit from your partners, because I'm sure that having a partnership is very important, not only in exchange of mobility of students and researchers and staff, but also exchange of expertise. It's a big deal. Also, you can refer to the calls for proposals, the program guidelines, the financial administrative handbook, whatever project that you would like to apply for, there always will be some guidelines. So make sure that you are informed about them. Even if you are only a partner, even if you are depending on the coordinator very much, you need to get yourself informed. Just to make sure that the coordinator is not telling you nonsense. Now, preparation, I will not tell you anything about that because I'm sure Eric gave you some information, but I will just tell you briefly, from my experience with projects, all of them involve consortium of universities, and it was always a struggle to decide on the partners. And I tell you that it's not easy to make everybody satisfied, because your partners that you choose would like to tell you about their partners, and they would like them to be involved in the project, etc. So you cannot involve everybody in the project. You need to think wisely. You need to think strategically. I know it's nice to have your friends on board. You would like to involve them, because maybe you are friends on individual basis or in personal basis, but also friendship is very important in cooperation. When you have a friend university, you know them very well, and it makes you very comfortable and confident to work with them. So there's nothing wrong about that. But you also need to think strategically for the benefit of your project. And sometimes the program itself will give you some minimum requirements. They tell you, for example, in Erasmus Mundus Action 2 this year, they told us there has to be new institutions who are not involved in Erasmus Mundus in the consortium. So they didn't give us the option. We had to involve people who were never involved in the project. But of course, when we selected those who were not involved, we thought strategically. We thought, maybe our partners know them very well, even though they've never been involved in Erasmus Mundus. We were confident to work with them because they know their work in other projects before. So it's not a problem to involve new partners. Don't always think only about the old partners that you work with all the time. Just try to explore more. And of course, your partners must be on the same page as you. So if they have a different vision than you are, then what's the point in starting a consortium or a partnership? It cannot work like that. This last point is not very important. It's giving your project a name. I think it's trendy and catchy. And in 2007, 8, and 9, Erasmus Mundus projects did not have any name. They were called Erasmus Mundus External Cooperation Window / region. So it was so you wouldn't know basically what projects you are talking about. Now you have Email, Eden, Kite, Homeria, Ematusa. So you have those different names of the projects, and I think it's nice. And I was surprised in October this year, we were at the Erasmus Mundus Coordinators Conference in Belgium, and the colleagues from the Commission, they thought it's not a good idea to have names for the projects because students are confused. And I must say, I don't agree with them. Students could be confused because you are not promoting your project very well. So it's not a problem that the project has a name, that the different projects have names. It's the problem that the managers don't know how to promote their project in a way to make it less confused for the candidates. So I still insist on the fact that a project having a name is nice. It's always nice to have a label. If you open a company, you will name it. So there has to be a name. Now, for implementation, it's very important. The implementation part, I think that the preparation part is the most crucial part, is the most complicated part. Before even starting the partnership is the worst part. It's the hardest one. Once this is done, once you have the partnership, once you get the grant, implementation is the fun part. This is the part where you can be creative, you can be innovative, you can do whatever you want to prove that you are better than others. And implementation, in my opinion, to make your international project work, well, not in a perfect way, I will not say perfect, but in an excellent way, you need to concentrate on things that are really important. And I put here a couple of things that I think are very relevant to the project. Teamwork, objectives and tools. You need to distinguish the difference between objectives and tools. Think outside the box, financial management and quality. I will go into details on those points. Teamwork. Well, I didn't put this picture because I want to be a pirate, or I think that it's good to have piracy in international projects. But simply I thought it's nice and colorful, and I think kids would like it. No, the point of this is that you need to always think of it. Your project is like a ship. It needs a captain and it also needs a crew. And you cannot manage your project on your own. As the main coordinator, I have the money. You know, the European Commission gives me €1.5 million, and I can do whatever I do with it, but it doesn't work that way. I cannot manage it on my own. It cannot work, possibly. So you need, you are a member of the team, and you always keep in mind that you need to work together. I don't know about you, but I personally don't know how to swim, so I really don't want my ship to sink, because then I will die. So please make sure that you know this. Make sure to know that even if you are the coordinator, you are assumed to be the authority, you have the money, but this is not the idea. The idea is that you are part of the team, but of course every project needs to have a leader, let's say, who is able to coordinate all the activities of the project itself. And to be able to have a good teamwork, not only talk about it, you need to actually do something about it. So in my opinion, you always need to be very transparent with your partners. Whatever you decide, you have to tell them, you have to discuss it with them. It's very easy to work in a team, you know, because you can be friends, it's nice, you can meet each other, you have money to have all those fancy consortium meetings. But you need to know that thinking as a team is really challenging. It's very important to make sure that your partners feel that they are part of the team. Because if they don't feel that, then it's only pretending. And if it's only pretending, the project will end, the finances will end, and nothing will happen after that. So you need to know that by involving your partners to become decision makers in the project aspects, the implementation will be much easier and much smoother for you, because they are convinced this is the way it should be done, not because you told them this is the way it should be done. And you need to think of a consortium as a whole, not only the benefit of your institution. And if I would think of the benefit of my institution, I wouldn't go to any project, to be honest with you, because in Erasmus Mundus, you all know 70% of the mobility goes for candidates from Israel to Europe, and not from Europe to Israel. So my students are, for my institution, only 5 people maximum benefit from the program every year. So this is not the point. You need to think of the consortium as a whole. The project is not only about mobility. Make sure your partners are well informed and satisfied with the results. So wherever you do something, you have to inform them, and you have to tell them all the time. They need to be satisfied, and if they are not satisfied, you need to get their feedback that they are not satisfied. Don't feel afraid of receiving any kind of criticism. You need to clearly define the role of every partner in the project. I'm the coordinator, you are you are a member of the selection committee. We need to know what exactly I will be doing, what I will be expecting of you on those 4 years of the project. So you really need to define those clearly from the very beginning at the kickoff meeting of the project. Have a good and clear communication strategy from the beginning. Literally, you need to tell them, I will be communicating with you using email and Skype. So you need to make them feel confident that whenever they need you, they will be able to contact you. So there will be a communication strategy from the beginning. And of course, it's a very hard task to be the project coordinator, because you always need to keep some kind of level of authority. And by saying that, I don't mean by being a dictator, but I mean that you need to always, the consortium is, you have a big number of partners, 20 partners, let's say, and sometimes not everybody will decide on everything. So, and discussion can go on for a very long time, but you need to move on. You need to reach certain results. So if this case happen, you will, as a coordinator, you have to do it that way. You need to propose some kind of solution and then vote on it, and the majority will always win. And in the end, everybody will be happy, but at the time when you discuss something that someone will not agree with you on something, you have to step in and make sure that it is democracy, but also if there is no agreement, there will be voting. Prepare clear documentation for your partners. When you have a project, you need to have a memorandum of understanding. The reason for that, let's say the project is 4 years long. In the last year, I asked my partners to give me some documents, and they tell me, you didn't tell me from the beginning, but and they forget about the rules. So they always have to have a document to refer to in case they forget something. Keep your partners active and involved. in the process. This is very important, and I will give you a concrete example. In email project, what we did is that not only we involve them in decision making and in attending consortium meeting, but we also created small groups within the project itself, within the consortium. So we have the quality assurance group, we have the academic recognition group. So by creating those small groups, you force your partners to involve and not be only silent partners. In project management, skilled staff should be treated as resources. So you have to know that in the project you have €1.5 million, but it's not the only resource. You have to have skilled staff, and you have to look at it that way. Now, during implementation, it is very common to get confused with the objectives and the tools, how to reach those objectives. And I give you a certain example in Erasmus Mundus Action 2 to make it very easy for you to understand. So the objective is to bring higher education in Israel closer to the higher education in Europe. The tool is to mobile hundreds of students, researchers, and staff. So my objective is not to mobile the students. This is just the tool to reach the objective. So I have the money to mobile the students, but this is not my objective. I should always think about it that way. And unfortunately, in many Erasmus Mundus projects in Europe, coordinators tend to forget about that. So what they do, they have the money, they do the mobility, the project ends, and no one remembers it anymore. And this is not the way you should do it. So make sure that you reach your objectives, not only implementing the most obvious tool, which is in the Erasmus Mundus project, the mobiling of students. Think outside the box. Be creative and innovative. I must say from my own experience as an engineer, because I studied engineering, I came to international relations by mistake. But for me, the most obvious one is to have the online tools and to be creative in that. And I think that we have a very unique one in the Erasmus Mundus project that we receive many feedback from the European Commission that is really quite unique and it's quite helpful. But I'm not only talking about online tools. You need to be creative and innovative in everything you do. You need to go beyond what the people who are responsible for the project are expecting from you. So I know that sometimes it's a skill. You either have it or you don't have it to be innovative and creative, but you are working in a partnership. So use the brains of your partners, not only your own brain. Financial management. This is an issue that needs a conference on its own, so I'm not going to go into details on that. But I will give you just a few recommendations. You need to balance your project's resources. You need to know that you don't only have a budget, but you also have staff and schedule and objectives. You need to make sure that you know which of those are constraints that within which you must operate, or they could be actually a flexibility, that a kind of freedom that you can work with. And so you need to know these things. And for example, in Erasmus Mundus project, we have a certain budget for mobility, a number of mobility flows. In email, we planned 70 projects in the first phase of email, 70 mobility flows. And in the end, we achieved 90. So sometimes you can use the budget in a different way than you planned it. So you make sure that you know that in advance. You need to share your financial plan with all your partners from the beginning, and you need to keep very clean bookkeeping, and you need to keep everything transparent, because the money is not only yours, it's the money of the partnership for the project. And as a coordinator, of course, and grant holder, it's always important to keep in mind the project guidelines, and we need to respect them, not to go into trouble. And the last thing I wanted to say in this matter, spend the money. Don't give money back to the European Commission. They gave it to you to spend it. So please spend it. Don't keep money, and don't be afraid to go in minus in the beginning, because in the end, it's always, you have excess money that you can use for further activities. So I personally would rather spend the money than give it back. Quality, this is another topic that really needs a conference on its own, and I think that it's you hear it everywhere, quality assurance, you need to keep the quality of your project. But let's face it, it's such a vague concept. It's when you tell your partners, let's have a presentation about quality, I feel that everybody, I don't want to hear it anymore. Because you as a project manager, you need to make sure that it's not vague anymore. And you can make it much clearer to everybody by having, let's say, a quality assurance plan. Just sit down together and say, I would like to measure the quality of this and this and this and that. You will not say the quality of the project. What do you mean the quality of the project? It's everything, you know. So if you cut it down into small tasks, like quality of the mobility itself, and I tell you quality of mobility, what does that mean? Do you mean academic quality or administrative quality? And then if I tell you, okay, maybe academic quality, and then I will tell you, okay, academic quality, what do you mean? The results that the students are having, or academic recognition once they came back? So when you cut down those tasks into small tasks and you give your partners, you know, you have to work on this, you have to work on that, and then quality becomes much clearer, much easier. And then you have tools for quality, to measure quality. You can send questionnaires to grantees and ask them, are you happy? Were you assisted before coming to the host institution? Did you have enough courses? Was the plan that was planned before you started your mobility fulfilled, or did you have to change it? So there are many ways to measure quality, but you need to make sure that from the beginning there is a quality assurance plan, time, and task for everybody, and you need to concentrate on one certain thing and not talk about quality in general, because then you will not go anywhere. The last part or element for a successful project is sustainability, and I think this is very, very important. Sustainability is the result of how to keep the results of your project going in the same quality as when you started the partnership. And you have to think of sustainability before the project ends, because once the project has ended, you don't have money to meet anymore. This is the simplest thing, and also you lose the concept when the project ends, and then you start of sustainability. It's too late. You have to think about it. You have to plan it ahead in advance. And if you compare your project to an old person, then they need pension plans. So you need to think about your project in that way. You have to have a good sustainability plan for that. And these are my friends, in my opinion, making an international project work. These are the points that we should always think about when we go into international cooperation. I'm telling you those things in terms of, from the point of view of the coordinator, the manager, but also I think that it applies on the partners in the same way. Of course, the task of the coordinator could be a little bit different than the task of the partner, but still we all have to be on the same page. We all have to think about the same things for the benefit of the project as a whole. And if my colleagues from the Bologna Training Center allow me, I would like to give you a little bit of information about email, because I have an evil plan to promote email during this conference since I'm here. And of course, I take this opportunity whenever I come to Israel or whenever I'm at a conference in Europe also. So I just would like to ask the audience, how many of you heard about the project email before coming today to this conference? Okay, that's a good number. It's not only the partners, but it means that we've been doing well, but we need to work harder a little bit on that. Email is a project that is funded by the Erasmus Mundus Action 2 money. Erasmus Mundus Action 2 is part of the Erasmus Mundus big project of the European Union. There are Action 1, Action 2, Action 3. Action 1 is the joint programs for masters and PhD. Action 2 is what we've been doing. That is the mobility of or exchange of students, staff, and researchers. And then Action 3 is something like Tempus. It's just for better visibility of the EU higher education. We started in 2010, and our last project was approved this year by the European Commission, and the period of implementation for one project is 4 years. That's why we end in 2017. But of course, there will be no longer email. There will be no email because even though there will be call for proposals for Erasmus Mundus, unfortunately, Israel is not going to be in the call for proposals. They will open it only for certain regions around the world, like South Africa and Asia. So we've been very successful. We received 3 separate budgets for the project. We started with email 1 in 2010. And then we continued in 2012 in Email 2, and this year we got the approval from the European Commission for Email 3. So we have a budget of a little bit less than 5 million euros to mobile. We hope to reach the number at least 400 mobility flows, but I'm optimistic that in the end we will have more than that, because as I mentioned before, in Email we planned only 70 mobility flows, and we ended up with 90 people going to Europe and Israel. In total, we have 21 partners from Israel and Europe. In the 3 projects, of course, some of the partners stayed from Email 1 through Email 2 to Email 3, and some new partners joined us in Email 2 and Email 3. So, but in total, we are 21 partners. Our objectives, as I mentioned, it's not mobiling 400 students and staff. This is only the tool. Our objectives are to bring European higher education closer to the one in Israel, to strengthen the mutual cooperation between the partners, and to increase the awareness about the Bologna process and ECTS in Israel. I just would like to mention that the intention of Europe is not to dominate and change your recognition system to the Bologna process, but we were trying to increase the awareness. And of course, because of the recognition, when you send your students to Europe, you need to make sure that the system is recognized once they come back. And also the exchange of international expertise. We are trying to do something like the one we are doing today, to exchange our ideas and opinions. The feedback from the European agency, I put a few points because I wanted you to know that we've been successful in our projects, and I hope that all of our partners agree with me. And this is the feedback, written feedback that we received from the agency as an answer to our reports that we have to submit every year. And they think that our project is running quite well. We are informing the students quite well. We have a good system, online system. We have good measures to make sure that there is a recognition of the study once the students come back, and also the common decision making. This is what I was mentioning in the teamwork. The European Commission thought that we have good decision making processes and harmonized management within our partnership. And I must tell you that this is only the written feedback, but the feedback that I get in person whenever I meet with people from the agency is really quite positive, and I'm very proud of the project. Contacts at the European side, it's Masaryk University as the project coordinator and the grant holder. Ben-Gurion University of the Negev are our co-coordinators since Email 2. And this is our website, this is our email, and I would like to mention to all of you that we launched the online application for grantees to apply last Friday, on the 15th of November. And so the application form is now open. Everybody can apply as long as they are citizens of Israel and they are involved with higher education. So even if your institution is not partner in the partnership, your students or staff or researchers could still apply through the email project, and they will apply as target group 2. Of course, the number of mobility flows that is allocated for grantees from the partner institutions are higher than the number of mobility flows for other institutions, but the possibility is still there. So please encourage your students to apply. If you could advertise it to them, make sure that they know about this opportunity. It's really quite interesting. Maybe I will just tell you a little bit about the money to make it a little bit more interesting. So the scholarship consists of €1,000 pocket money per month for the whole period of mobility. This is for bachelors and masters. For doctoral students, it's €1,500 per month. For researchers, €1,800 per month. And for staff, €2,500 for 1 month mobility. Of course, not only that, but we cover the return ticket, so we pay all the travel expenses and also the insurance expenses. Money is not the only purpose why people should apply. Of course, the experience is really excellent, and the partners that we have in Europe are really excellent partners, and I think it's very important for your students to know about this opportunity, same as students from the partner institutions. So please promote email if you can. That's all from my part. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope I didn't take longer time than I should. And thank you. Shall I take questions now or afterwards? Yeah.
Thank you. Being involved with the Erasmus Mundus project is that the impact on students, certainly from Ben-Gurion University, who had the opportunity to go to one of the European universities for a semester, the impact was immense. And this was never clearer to me than during one of the exercises we did. We introduced activities to prepare our outgoing students for the experience they would have in Europe. And after the first time we went through it, we had the opportunity to create meetings between returning students and outgoing students. So for example, if we had had 7 or 8 students who spent a semester in Madrid, we would bring them to a meeting with the 6 or 7 students who were about to go to Madrid. And these students were basically a year apart. And in fact, sometimes not even a year apart, because some of them might have been third-year students, some of them might have been first or second-year students. The difference between the two groups was astonishing. The maturity, the approach of students who had spent a semester in Europe was astonishing. It was astonishing. And it's particularly astonishing in view of the fact that, as all of you here know, most of the students have already spent time abroad after their military service and before starting their studies. They usually spend a half a year or a year, sometimes even more, traveling around the world. So I think the contribution of this kind of experience on the individual level is something that should be encouraged in every way possible and taken advantage of. Okay, yes, Joe, you had your hand up.
I want to congratulate the organizers for making the decision to bring Amal here.
Thank you.
And making such a wonderful presentation. And the second remark is, Amal, in Hebrew, there's a saying, Na'eh doresh ve'na'eh mekayem. And in a general translation, you were not only able to give us this presentation in such a wonderful way, but we can testify how well you also implemented all these ideas that you brought to us, and which we listened so attentively. And the last remark, the email name, it sounds so original.
Yes, I must tell you that the author of the name is our dearest colleague here, Joel. Because when we started the cooperation, we were sending emails back and forth, thinking about a catchy name for the project, and the word email came, and so thank you, Joel. He's the father of this name.
Erasmus Mundus and Israel. I remember when Joel came up with it. Thank you. Yes. No. It's not possible. It's not possible that there are no comments or questions.
On one of the slides, you mentioned the ways to figure out ways to manage disputes, and so if you can give some examples, what are the methods, or when you have disagreements, what are your methods to solve it?
Mm-hmm. Well, of course, in any meeting, when you have many partners sitting down for 2 days and in very intensive working days, I think it is only normal that sometimes there will be some disagreements on some aspects, and it is only normal that partners will be thinking about the benefit of their own institution. But of course, what I meant by think about the consortium as a whole, I meant to a certain extent in the overall view of the success of your project. But of course, doesn't mean that you will not think about the benefit of your own institution. So it's only normal that there will be some kind of disagreements. What I always try to do is to bring bring some arguments. So I give my arguments, and I ask all the partners from the Israeli part and the European part to tell their arguments. And I do not call a vote unless there will be many arguments on the floor, so that people who will vote for the decision will know what they are deciding on. And I think that it is in any project, it's only normal that sometimes we will have to vote on something. And I must say that in our project there were no cases where it was really serious decision to take, but maybe I will give you an example. Last month in Beersheba we had the kickoff meeting, and our colleague from Sciences Po University in France, he thought that students who are in their last year of bachelor's should be given the opportunity to apply for the full master's degree, even though they are not graduates at the time of application. So this was a point where we were deciding whether to give them this opportunity or not, and then there were some arguments of why to give them this opportunity, why not, and then we voted on that, and he won in the end. So that's how we deal with it. We don't. I never give a proposal only by telling them this is the way it will be, but I always try to give my arguments and try to involve all the partners to hear the arguments from each other's point of views.
Yes. Okay, perhaps we'll come back to these issues with the panel immediately afterwards. Thank you very much, Amal.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you very much.